We use some different indicators to construct 4 clusters. The indicators referring to the SDI mode are related to if firms do have expenditures on R&D, if they have cooperation with knowledge institutions, and if they have R&D personnel in their workforce. The DUI learning mode indicators have a lot to do with characteristics of what you call a learning organization. You have interdisciplinary work groups, quality circles, systems for collecting proposals, autonomous groups, integration of functions, and softened demarcations between different types of expertise, for instance, engineers and economists, that they overlap more than before. And also it includes, as a factor related to the interaction with customers, we have a variable related to how strongly the firm interacts with its customers. What we find is that in this case we have 4 clusters, one with about 20% of all the firms which combine DUI and SDI, which are strong in both these respects. We have about 1/4 of the firms which are strong in experience-based learning, but not in science-based learning. And we have a group of about a little more than 10% which are strong in terms of SDI learning, but not having a working organization or being strongly connected to customers. And finally, we have about 40% of the firms which are weak in both these respects. We call them the low learning firms. And what do we see in terms of the innovative capacity? What we measure here is the probability that the firm develops a new product within a 3-year period. This is the performance indicator. Does the firm introduce a new product within a 3-year period or not? And we find that if you have one of these modes of learning, the probability is double as high. This is the meaning of the odds ratio. But if you combine the two, the probability is 5 times as high. This should not come as a surprise for any person who is in the practical life or doing serious academic research. What's interesting here is that we can show this with very strong statistical precision that this is the case. And this means that any kind of strategy at the level of the firm, I think some of you are managers of firms, need to think about how to combine R&D efforts with developing the organization with connecting with customers. You cannot only focus on one thing. But it's also true you need to think, if you are a policymaker, it's much more easy to think about how you can promote R&D in the firms, but you also need to think how you can promote the DUI mode. How can you stimulate firms to develop more advanced organizational forms to develop a more efficient interaction with their customers? This should be, and it implies broad definitions both of innovation systems and innovation policy. A lot of innovation policy. I don't think this is the case as much in the Basque country as in many other countries, has been focused very much on high technology sectors. And a lot of policy has been to support R&D efforts in these sectors. This is what falls in the cell number 4 here. And this is where you think, in the first time when you think about innovation policy, this is what you should do. I would say that promoting the DUI mode in high-tech firms might be very important. There are a number of new startups made by engineers or scientists who do not have much experience in management or in connecting to marketing and things like that. And I think when you give advice from the kind of technology institutes. This should be part of your agenda. And also, not least, if you take so-called traditional sectors, textiles, clothing, and furniture, etc., today there is a strong need to upgrade the connection to scientific knowledge. Many of these are small-scale activities driven by family in a rather traditional way, and you need to be very creative to find ways for them to increase their capacity to absorb scientific knowledge. One idea would be, for instance, to institute more practical activities among engineering students and economics management students, so they spend half a year perhaps of their education in private sector and perhaps ideally in small and medium-sized firms. That would be a good learning experience, both for the students and for upgrading the focus of the firms. So this implies, I think most of you who have had anything to do with the European Commission, you know about the knowledge triangle. This is a standard element in most presentations on innovation in Europe from Brussels, where you have innovation, knowledge, and education. You say these three should work together. I propose, in order to make the DUI thing more explicit, that we should think about it as a knowledge rectangle, that we should add explicitly the importance of organizational learning, because I think this is a factor which, when it comes to realize good ideas, not only getting new ideas, but really put them into practice, into work, how you organize activities is extremely important. So, this brings me to my last slide, and I think it's a very important question. Who should be in charge of innovation policy? And you've seen different models in different countries. In my country, in Denmark, at some point you moved the responsibility of innovation policy from the Ministry of Industry to the Ministry of Science. And what happened was that everything was about the SDI mode. Everything about the DUI mode disappeared. Now they are trying to repair upon this by creating a new agency and so on. But this is what might happen. If you put the responsibility in the Ministry of Industry, it might be a little too dominated by practical needs of the firms. It might become more or less a representative of industry and lose some of its autonomy. So I think actually the best solution, and I don't know if Innobasque is part of this solution and how it's grouped, but what I've recommended over many years actually is that you need a kind of coordinating unit which is close to the top leadership, which is something like a council for innovation and competence building under the active leadership of the Prime Minister or the President. The reason is that we need a broad approach. We need an approach which includes not only science, technology, and business interests. It needs also to take into account the vocational training system, the labor market institutional setup, because the kind of learning taking place in the labor market is extremely important. So you really need a coordination from a very high degree. So I would like to say, when I started to work with innovation systems, the first one who really understood what I was saying was the Finnish minister. And already 1991 or 92, the Finnish minister took the lead, and during a very serious crisis in Finland. You know, what happened in Finland was that Soviet Union disappeared as a market. They were in serious trouble. And the Prime Minister at that time his name is Aho. Aho said, we should not give up. Now, it's now the time to invest in knowledge. It's now the time to invest in innovation. And actually, this is one reason why Finland today is a kind of model for innovation policy. And my feeling after visiting your beautiful country several times, Mr. President, is that you have a similar opportunity. You could become the leading innovation policy region in Europe, if you want to. And I think you have a very good start here, and I want to congratulate you to what you have already done. Thank you very much.